It's going to be one of those strange videos today. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on and it's all sort of crammed together. None of it really fits together. There's a care package in there. There's a haircut in there. There's, of course, an upcoming sneaker in there. But even the sneaker itself, there's stuff I don't know about it. Its drop date is months apart. How can a drop date be months apart? So there's an awful lot going on in this video and a lot to catch up with you guys on and a lot to talk about. But right at the center of all that is that sneaker. So let's get into this and talk about the upcoming release, or the already released, Nike Air Force 1 Tie Dye. This is the Talk About It 23 Sneaker channel. Talk About It 23 Sneaker channelです。毎日アップするので、毎日見てください。Every single day, I bring you content from Tokyo, Japan about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. And today what we're looking at is the upcoming release of the Nike Air Force 1 Tie Dye. And I said at the start of this video, the upcoming release or the already release. Now, I know nothing about this shoe except for what I researched before standing in front of the camera to talk to you guys today. Now, I do this every single day. And I tell you that before I make these videos, I always research them, put together some notes, find the details on the shoe, and literally I hadn't seen this shoe coming up. I think it's September 4th, and this video is probably going to drop on like August 29th or something like that, so in a week's time or so. But I hadn't really paid any attention to this shoe, didn't see it at all. Now I'm here in Tokyo, Japan, and that's basically the nearest country to Tokyo, Japan is South Korea. Literally, there's like a 30-minute ferry ride from one point in southern Japan up to the southern point of South Korea. So literally it's the nearest country to us. So if I was going to know about stuff going on in another country, that's where I'd know. And the talk of the town is that these guys dropped on July the 1st in South Korea already. I do not know that. I literally do not know that. And I want you to tell me in the comments down below if that is actually true. If you're from South Korea and you know this shoe dropped already, or if you know anything about the South Korean sneaker culture and you know if it dropped already over there. And even that, like I said, we're talking, I think it was July 1st, all of July, all of August, and then a little bit into September before it drops in the US, so 2 and a bit months. Why? Why is there such a big gap between the drop date in South Korea and then the drop date in America? I do not know, and I want you to tell me in the comments down below. Sometimes when you get regional drops, maybe as much as a week, usually just a couple of days. It drops locally on a Thursday and then generally on a Saturday, for example. But these guys have been more than 2 months apart. It doesn't make any sense to me. Don't know why. Very confused by that, but want to know from you guys out there, did these guys really drop on July the 1st in South Korea and then go in general release in the rest of the world on September the 4th, and why? So that's the main thing I want to ask you guys about the shoe before we get into the details and actually show you some really interesting stuff going on there. There's 3 different tie-dyes going on. It looks like one, turns out there's 3, and then underneath the tie-dye there's actually a very cool colorway hiding, which would have looked good all on its own without the tie-dye on top of it. So we'll get into all of that, but first, like I said, there's some other stuff going on. There's a care package that arrived on Monday morning from Belgium, and I'm going to make a video just basically where I open this care package. I know 1 pair of shoes is in it, but apparently there are 2 more and I don't know anything about those. So I'm going to try and do a video where I just open them and pull out these shoes that have been sent to me from Belgium. A viewer, never met the chap before in my life, only through the channel do I have a connection to this man. So it's cool that I'm getting care packages. I'd love to be able to sell that to you guys as normal. Oh yeah, YouTubers get care packages all the time and people send us rare sneakers and we make videos about it all the time. That's normal practice. Go ahead, send me an email, send me those rare shoes and I'll make a video and then I'll keep the shoes. That's how it normally works. It's not. I've had my channel for like 1 year and 9 months, and this is the first thing that I've received out of the channel. To be honest, even though I'm monetized, I haven't actually finished the paperwork to get the money. So I've been monetized since I think Boxing Day, and I've never actually activated that. So the money's just sort of sitting there in Google AdSense, I think is the place where it sits until I finally get my bank into work in order and get that money. So I've never received anything from out there, whether it be money from YouTube or whether it be viewers. So this will be a big thing for me. First time that the YouTube is sort of given back. So look forward to that. Look forward to that coming later in the week. Hopefully I'll shoot that video maybe tomorrow or the day after, and then we'll get to see A, the 1 pair of shoes that's already in there, which is very beautiful, and B, the other 2 pairs of shoes that are a surprise surprise to me as much as to you. So look forward to that. And then lastly, the last little bit of updates before we look at these shoes is my old noggin. I did get my hair cut today, finally, for the first time in ages, and it feels great. It was getting a bit sort of heavy up there, and in the warm humidity of Tokyo, that wasn't a good thing. So I'm glad to finally get shorn of all that and get back to what I think of as my natural look, and hopefully you guys like it as well. Okay, let's get into this shoe and talk about what's going on. So we already talked about the drop date, which is the major sort of story in the shoe as far as I'm concerned. You might have a different sort of opinion, but like I said, there's basically a colorway underneath this, and then there's 3 sets of tie-dye on this. So let's start with the colorway and then we'll come back to the tie-dye. So if we go into the toe box now, I think it's a light pink toe box. Now you can tell me by looking at the green screen here. I'll zoomed in in such a way that you can actually see the underlying colorway under the tie-dye. But for me, that's a light pink toe box, and then the sort of rest of the shoe is white. But I think these are 2 things that I think, they're my opinion based on what I've looked at. But if you know, like if you're in South Korea and you've got them in hand and can tell us, that would be great to know if that underlying colorway is pink and white. What I can say for sure is there's a sort of lime green swoosh on the side, and then that goes all the way back to the branding on the heel. And I think I'm right in saying that the branding on the heel in that lime green panel is black branding on the back there. So that for sure we can talk about, because you can see that color. But the white and the light pink is harder to see on the shoe. And then there's the tie-dye on top of that, which happens in 3 different ways. The first way, which is, it seems to happen in 3 different ways in 2 different places for each way. And the best way to illustrate that is to look at the toe box first. So if we zoom on from above, zoom on, I said it again, zoom in from above and look at the toe box there, you can see that the tie-dye's got a little bit of an orange feel about it. And you're like, okay, so there's a little bit of orange going on in there. But then if you go back towards sort of the top line and top edge of the ankle support area, you can see in there as well, you've got that orange feel. So that's one of the colorways, or one of the tie-dye colorways in 2 different places. But then you've also got on the lateral side, if you zoom in on there, you'll see an almost mauve or fuchsia sort of pink color going on in there, which is it complements with the other tie-dyes around it, and especially that orange that we looked at in the toe box and the top line, and that's repeated in 2 places, and then beside that you've got a black tie-dye effect going on as well, to sort of finish off the 3 dimensions of the tie-dye across the shoe. At first glance you're kind of looking at it and you're just thinking it's almost like a zebra pattern, black and white only, but then when you look at it more closely and in more detail, you see the oranges and that mauve fuchsia pink color coming out as well, and that goes really well with the colors underneath, like I said, for the basic sort of colorway that makes up this shoe. Now a couple of things of interest on it. I always like to talk about the tongues on Air Force Ones, because it drives me nuts that they say this on here, and if you're a regular viewer of my channel, you'll know that I'm saying that I don't like it that it says Nike Air Force One, and I know it doesn't say that. I know it says Nike Air Force One, but I can't help but read Nike Air Force One, and that's just like, ooh, why didn't they just put Nike Air no, that wouldn't have made sense at all. Nike Air Force One. Why didn't they just put Nike Air Force One? And I say Nike because I'm from the UK and that's how we pronounce it. I know other people like this Nike, and I kind of switch between the 2. But yeah, Nike Air Force One would have done it, but Nike Air Force One, it's like, but up there on the tongue, it's very simple because the colorway is dominated by the tie-dye, and up on the tongue there with that white base on the tongue and then the black branding on top, very simple. You go back a little bit from that and into the insole, and you see it's a bit more color in the insole based in that green that goes the same as the swoosh and the heel branding on there, and then the black branding on the inside. I think I've got that right. I know for sure that the insole as well also has a bit of a tie-dye effect in black on there too, which is cool because it could have just gone with a simple, green insole and black branding, but putting the tie-dye in there as well, it adds a little bit of character and a little bit of to this shoe. And then the last thing is to flip them upside down and look at that solid black outsole. I just realised there's one more thing to do with the outsole. It's actually the midsole, but the solid black outsole on there, you can see there's no definition of other colours going on in there at all. But if we do come back to the side, you see it's a thin strip of outsole in black, but on top of that is a thicker strip of white midsole. Now there were a recent pair of Nike Air Force Ones where the whole midsole outsole unit was one colour, and I think they're green and white, and it's a high, so an Air Force One high. And I talked in that video about how usually with Air Force Ones you get like basically a white midsole and then the strip of colour along the outsole. In the case of these guys, it's in black, but what isn't in black is the detailing on here. And you can see I've zoomed in on the word air there, which is white on white, and it's debatable as to whether that's a good idea or not. I personally prefer a bit of pop down there, a little contrast between the air branding and the midsole, and I would have preferred that to be black writing on the white midsole. But as it is, that's their choice, and it's the last thing to talk about in this shoe. So if you come all the way back out, look at the full shoe. It's a women's shoe as well. Forgot to mention that, women's shoe. And I do the women's shoes at the channel as often as I see fit. But I try to include that as well. Equal opportunities and stuff. It's a big part of the channel, a big part of me. So happy to do women's shoes. It's not the kind of shoe I would wear in A size, but also I wouldn't be able to rock a shoe like this. It just totally doesn't fit my sort of style of shoes. I'm much more into simple, sleek colorways, and this is anything but you might be interested in and be able to tell me more about them, so let me know in the comments down below. But for now, it's time to sign off and do what I do at the end of every single video, which is remind you that I do this every single day, so you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.